On today's episode of Locked On Wild, if you thought the Wild were going to be able to ride Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy all the way through the season and get elite level goaltending from Jesper Wallstedt and Filip Gustavsson, losing 3 out of 4 to the worst teams in the league should hopefully change your mind.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
Hey, this is Marcus Foligno, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Seth Toupal. Thank you for listening to Locked On Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Locked On Wild is your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. We have you covered every single day of the week. We are your team each and every day. And we thank you for making Locked On Wild part of your listening plans on a daily basis. And if you're a true diehard Wild fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonwild.supercast.com to join the Everydayer program and unlock all access. You can find the link in the show notes. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we dive into a rough stretch for the Minnesota Wild. We'll look at what went wrong, especially over the weekend, as the Wild lost to 2 of the worst teams in the NHL back-to-back. We will also take a look at some of the goaltending hiccups we've seen over the last several games. We'll talk about some troubling statistics that continue to follow Vladimir Tarasenko throughout the lineup. And we'll look at what needs to be fixed once and for all for this team to continue to ride their success from the early part of the season. My name is Seth Toupal, credentialed media member covering the Minnesota Wild for the last 5 seasons. And today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We bring Alex Micheletti into the show, and unfortunately not a victory Micheletti Monday because the Wild lost to one of the worst teams in the league, the Vancouver Canucks, over the weekend, before previously losing to the worst team in the league, the Calgary Flames, outscored 8-2 in both games. And Alex, an off night is going to happen. So the game against Calgary, while frustrating, while troublesome, is one that if you have a bounce back performance against the Vancouver Canucks, you can overlook that. You can shake that off. And the Wild did for one period. They looked like they were trying to put a rebound performance together. But you can't continue to win games 1-0 or 2-1, and the lack of finishing doomed them against the Vancouver Canucks, and a team that if they would have put them away early, they probably win that game, but they couldn't. An off night for Jesper Wallstedt. It was a frustrating last couple of games, and even 3 of the last 4, to be honest, going back to the Buffalo game. Frustrating stretch for the Minnesota Wild to start the month of December.
100%. The warts from the beginning of the season have crept in a couple of times now, and against the worst teams in the league, which is, you would think it would be the opposite. But, I think they give some of these teams that are really struggling hope, and, they let them creep back into the games, and then they take over, and the Wild just hope that Kirill or Boldy can score. If not, everybody else has been really quiet, and there's been some really just bad turnovers too that have led to easy goals for some of these really bad teams.
Yeah, and like just looking at each of the games kind of as a standalone, the Calgary game was awful. Like they were not able to complete passes. The offense just looked completely disjointed. The power play was a mess. And yes, I know Dustin Wolf's a good goalie, but they really did not do themselves any favors in that game. The first period of the Vancouver game went fine. You look at those chances that they just weren't able to bury, and that obviously led to the loss. But it just seemed like after that, once Vancouver tied the game, it seemed like there just was kind of okay, this is not going our way, so let's just pack it up and move on to the next one.
I 100% agree with you. And even Jesper, who was riding a really hot streak there, let in some really just soft goals. And hopefully that doesn't affect his confidence at all, and they can get him back going on another win streak here soon.
Yeah, the game against Vancouver, the Canucks had only 2 high danger chances the entire game. They scored 4 times, and it was mostly shots from the perimeter that snuck through screens. Jesper said after the game, he said, yeah, I got to do a better job of fighting through the screens. He wasn't going to shut every team out. There were going to be times, there are going to be times this year where he's going to be on the wrong end of games. But this is why, this is something that we have discussed quite often on this show. So the everydayers have heard me make this point repeatedly. You can't rely on goaltending to limit what your opponent does. At some point, the offense has to take the lead, and they have not been able to do that outside of Kirill, Kaprizov, and Matt Boldy, and now Marcus Johansson's starting to kind of go cold. Joel Eriksson Ek over the last 5 games, his points have dried up. What we've seen over the last few years is the secondary cast is so streaky that if you aren't getting the top level production from Kirill or Matt Boldy, you're probably not winning those games. And now Kirill's on a little bit of a cold stretch himself.
And the faceoffs have become a giant issue again. I mean, they even had Hartman out there trying to help the regular centers. When you're playing from behind with the possession of the puck off these draws, it does you no good either. And special teams again has been an issue over the past couple of games as well too. So I mean, everything is in a funk.
Penalty kill looks like they'll never allow a goal again, which
Nice.
is, I guess, the shining bright spot of what we've seen so far this year. But the power play is the exact opposite. Like, as good as the penalty kill has been, to the point that we are above 80% for the season now for the first time since the 2020-2021 season. That was the last time the Wild had a plus 80% penalty kill, which is insane. It seems like as automatic as the penalty kill has been, the power play is not automatic right now. They're just they don't look like they have any semblance of a chance to score goals when they're on the extra attacker.
And look at the standings now. They're 10 games or 10 points behind Dallas for second, and 13 from Colorado, which is just absurd for first. So they're really putting themselves in the spot where it's third or wild card. And with the way the with the way the playoff system is, you always the 2 plays the third, and so it's looking like it could set up to be Dallas unless Winnipeg gets their act together and hopefully gets Hellebuck back for their sake. But the Wild are really putting themselves in a hole there, and they got to get that at least put pressure on Dallas and Colorado.
Yeah, you've got a 4-point lead on Utah with a game in hand, but you've got a 5-point lead on Chicago in the same number of games. We talked about a little bit of equity that got built in the month of November, and now all of a sudden it's been immediately squandered. Like it took 3 games in the month of December, and it's already back to a sweat for one of those top 3 spots.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick that can happen, right? It swings either way, and when you're on the wrong end of things, it just it seems like things compound, and they miss Marco Rossi, I think, a ton, and they just when you miss one or two guys, you got guys playing more minutes than they probably should, and as we talked about Tarasenko, when he gives you nothing, it really hurts.
Yeah, we're going to talk further about the Vladimir Tarasenko situation. I've got some statistics for the difference between him being on the ice with particular people and him not being on the ice with those people. But the one that really strikes me is the Wilds. It took them the whole month of November to get into positive territory as far as 5-on-5 goals go. They got up to, I believe, 25th in the league in the month of November. And now they're back down to 31st. They have 47 5-on-5 goals in 29 games. It continues to just be something that is not improved, is not worked on. Like what a shock. It comes back and it is again one of your biggest weaknesses.
And these teams know that, right? And they're starting just to check the heck out of Kaprizov, and they know that, hey, if Kaprizov or you limit Boldy to that one goal like the other night, you're in a good spot to win. And Vancouver, they had both of their big goalies out, not playing, and so they had an AHL level goalie win that game, and just unacceptable. And Elias Pettersson got scratched literally right before the game, and so they had their their best forward out too. Yeah, it just you give these teams hope, and you have no-namers score out there for Vancouver. It's crazy.
And a team that had already thrown in the towel.
Right.
And Calgary has, for all intents and purposes, already thrown in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo has, for all intents and purposes, thrown in the towel. The Wild are not a good enough team to go into these games and just assume that they're going to win. They're not a good enough team to be able to do that. The thing that has led to them winning these games is coming in ready to play from puck drop, 100% effort across the board. If you don't get that, guess what? You can't cheat your way through these games. And if you show up and it's less than 100%, it's going to be a loss.
You nailed it. It seems like they're just complacent right now. Hey, we took down Colorado, and then after that, it's just been like, they should be riding that momentum, and it's been the complete opposite.
Yeah, and it's something that I still kind of backed off it with the stretch that they were on, but I think it just comes down to, again, like, you got to get a little bit of a fresh spin, I think, in this locker room. Somebody that can come in and bring. They tried it with Pat Maroon. I don't think Pat Maroon was enough. You got to have somebody that can come in and be the leader in both word and deed. Somebody that can come in and can be like a leader on the ice, a leader in the locker room, a leader outright to everybody that is watching, everybody that's listening, somebody that can encompass all of that at once. And it feels like this is just kind of this just feels like kind of a locker room that is, I don't know. They seem okay. If they win, it's fun. If they lose, they don't seem particularly perturbed by it.
Yeah, the only one that always is Matt Zuccarello, but you don't hear anything else. It's just that doesn't make any sense to me. And we've heard now that the buyouts are over. This was supposed to be the opportunity to find that person, and nothing yet.
Nothing yet. We have plenty more that we are going to get to here on today's show. When we come back, I want to talk about the Vladimir Tarasenko situation, because the team went 7-0 with him not in the lineup, and they're back to 1-3-1 since he returns. Numbers don't lie. We'll talk about the Tarasenko conundrum as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. With 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. Let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why Game Time is so clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. And the best feature that Game Time has is the panoramic seat views. You're going to venues you probably aren't super familiar with, so knowing what the sight lines are and what you'll see from your vantage point is crucial for these types of games. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets with every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Welcome back to today's edition of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen of the day, and we thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Another reminder, the big reveal today, if you are a true diehard Minnesota Wild fan, the Everyday or All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonwild.supercast.com to join the Everydayer program and unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. And folks, just to kind of expand on this a little bit, this is massive. This is going to allow Locked On Wild to fully embrace the Locked On State of Hockey moniker. We're going to be bringing you Iowa Wild, PWHL, draft prospects, probably a little college hockey in there as well too. So stay tuned, and again, hit the show notes if you're looking for more information on what exactly the All Access platform will provide you. Hit the show notes. I think it's going to be unbelievable. Back to today's show, Alex. Brett Marshall, friend of the show, does such a good job of putting different statistics together. And I got to say, we are 22 games into the Vladimir Tarasenko tenure with the Minnesota Wild. And it just doesn't seem like there's a really good fit. Listen to these numbers with Vladimir Tarasenko that Brett put together. We'll start with the goals for per 60 minutes with Tarasenko as a line mate. Kirill Kaprizov, 0 goals per 60. Marcus Foligno, 0 goals per 60. Vinny Hinostroza, 0 goals per 60. Ryan Hartman, 0 goals per 60. Matt Boldy, 1.02 goals for per 60. Joel Eriksson Ek, 0.62 goals for per 60 minutes. And in the case of Ryan Hartman, Matt Boldy, and Joel Eriksson Ek, the three who have spent the most time with him this year, those numbers are not great. Now, goals against, 0 with Kirill, 2.09 with Marcus Foligno, 0 with Vinny Hinostroza, 1 goal against per 60 for Ryan Hartman, 2.04 for Matt Boldy, and 1.86 for Joel Eriksson Ek. How about the expected goals for Kirill? 1.09. That's awful. Marcus Foligno, 1.28. Vinny Hinostroza, 1.73. Ryan Hartman, 2.47. With Matt Boldy, it's 3.38. But again, expected goals for compared to actual goals for, wide difference between the two. Joel Eriksson Ek, it's 2.63. Expected goals against with Kirill, 4.43. Awful. 3 for Marcus Foligno, 3.54 for Vinny Hinostroza, 3.78 for Ryan Hartman, 3.3 for Matt Boldy, 2.86 for Joel Eriksson Ek. The expected goals percentage, 19.75% with Kirill, 29.91% with Marcus Foligno, 32% with Hinostroza, 39% with Hartman, 50% with Boldy, 47% with Joel Eriksson Ek. Need I go on? Need I go on as far as here's the numbers without. Joel Eriksson Ek's goals for per 60 minutes, 3.24 without Vladimir Tarasenko. Matt Boldy's is 3.4. Now, Ryan Hartman's is 0.95, which not great. Vinny Hinostroza 1.46, Marcus Foligno 0.34, Kirill's is 2.86. But that's compared to 0 with Tarasenko. And just all of the numbers, like the only player that is substantially below 50% in the expected goals percentage, which the only player that was above 50% with Tarasenko is Boldy. Everybody but Vinny Hinostroza and Kirill being just percentage points below it. Everybody else is a 50% or above in expected goals. The numbers between with and without are noticeable, staggering even.
It's a nightmare. And there's a reason why Steve Yzerman was trying to get rid of Tarasenko, right? Because he knew he was cooked. He knew this was near the end for a player, and it clearly didn't work in Detroit, and it's clearly not working in Minnesota here. And so they have a really a conundrum because they don't seem to want to healthy scratch him. But
yeah,
if he's going to continue to hurt the team, you have to.
And for those that will push back and say it's not all on Tarasenko, the entire team is not capable of scoring in 5-on-5. Bill Guerin brought Vladimir Tarasenko in specifically to score goals. He didn't bring him in to be a third line checking forward. He brought him in to be a top 6 goal scoring forward. And therefore, my standard of success is how many goals have you scored? 2 goals in 22 games. That's not successful.
Not with the ice time that brings to be in the top 6 and some power play time too. It really is unacceptable.
And the other thing too, especially in that Vancouver game, Ryan Hartman could not have walked that pass out to Tarasenko any better. Teed it up. And when you are in a bottom 6 role, so, the play of Danila Yurov has prompted, and Marcus Johansson has prompted Tarasenko to be dropped to a third line role. So your chances are lesser, which magnifies even more the need to be successful on those chances. And getting opportunities within 5 feet of the net and not being able to produce
costs your team so much when the team is desperately looking for secondary offense other than Boldy and Kaprizov.
So it didn't cost you any prospects. It cost you salary cap. And if you want to spin it as it was insurance until you could see where Danila Yurov was at in his process, that's fine. But continuing to put a guy in the lineup that is just not. And the numbers speak for themselves. The Wild were 7-0 with him out of the lineup, and now since he's returned, they're 1-3-1.
You can't hide it. You can't hide it.
Those numbers don't lie. Those numbers aren't made up. Those numbers are right there in front of us.
Yeah, and he's what, $4 million? Yeah, it's unacceptable.
both opportunities. Like, find a way to capitalize on one of them, but those aren't the only ones that we've seen. There were opportunities earlier in the season. I forget the team, but there was one where Tarasenko had an open net. He was on the left side of the net, like left side of the crease, open net. All he had to do was blow on the puck and get it into the net, and he misses left somehow.
Can't have that happen. And you hear Hines say, well, he's moving well without the puck. Yeah, at some point he's going to run out of things, excuses for the guy. But I don't care how many years he's been in the league. If you're playing like this, at some point you have to be healthy scratched.
Yeah, like you can't move him. You've got your fourth line figured out. You can't move him further down in the lineup. And what's going to happen when Marco Rossi comes back? I know Rossi is, from the sounds of it, he's a ways away.
The dreaded week to week again with him.
Ways away from being able to return and help out the team. But, you brought him in to be one of your secondary goal scorers. And guess what has not happened? Secondary goal scoring. So this is a business. This is a sport that is predicated on success. And at some point, those opportunities just have to go to somebody else. It's as plain, it's as plain and simple as that. If you're not going to afford younger players the opportunity to work into a role, why do you continue to afford the opportunities here when you're getting less production than you would with any of those guys?
And these points are so crucial, right? Especially, there's going to be more and more of these back-to-backs too, and they have to take advantage of the teams that are below them in the standings. You can't give them hope, because then the teams in front of them smell blood in the water and continue to take advantage.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, but it is also so on point for where this team is at this point in the season.
It's very similar. They have these stretches where they look like the best team in the entire league, and then they revert back to what it was before the hot streaks. Every year it seems like it's the same story.
When we come back, we will take a look at what needs to be improved. Like, where in the lineup do we need to get improvement from? We'll talk about kind of reintegrating Marco Rossi to this mix. We're just look at, what needs to change, what needs to be fixed as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the games start to shift. Receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Hey, how about the Vikings? No turnovers against the Washington Commanders. Hopefully the first of a few of those types of performances as the season draws to a close. It's been a rough couple of weeks for Justin Jefferson, but I'm telling you, anytime touchdown, go JJ. Feel like he's due. The JJ to JJ connection is due for a TD, and I think we get it coming up this weekend. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Final segment of today's edition of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure to check out the show notes for more details on the Locked On Wild Everydayer All Access tier. You're going to get some great additional episodes, some all access content on a weekly basis. And like I said, we're expanding the scope with the All Access Club. We're expanding the scope to more of a state of hockey approach. The Minnesota Wild coverage will not change. You know, we'll still give you all of the episodes throughout the week, and post games, postcasts. Those are still happening as normal. All Access provides opportunities to dive into Iowa, to dive into the PWHL, to dive into other aspects of Minnesota hockey that are above the scope of what Locked On Wild aims to cover. So more details can be found at lockedonwild.supercast.com. Alex, before we dive into some of what needs to be fixed, the Seattle Kraken on the docket for tonight's matchup. Two of the worst teams in the NHL as far as 5-on-5 scoring goes. Two teams predicated on defense and I guess physicality in the case of the Kraken. You can't really say they're predicated on goaltending because they don't really get that. This is one that the Wild have had good success against the Kraken in the past. This is one there's no excuse. This is one you have to take care of business on after how the last couple of games have gone. You just got to find a way to get it done. And I would like to see it done emphatically.
I'm with you. The Kraken goaltending has been absolutely horrendous. This should be a classic bounce back opportunity for the Wild, to get right game, as they say a lot of the times too. And Seattle struggles to score as well. So who knows? It's two struggling teams coming in to this game, but the Wild have to take advantage of another team lower than them.
If you look at what the Wild have received from over this stretch of games, we'll go back to the game. We'll go back to before the Edmonton game to get that Buffalo Sabres game in as well. So if we go back to November 29th, what the Wild have received from particular pieces of their lineup it shouldn't be a surprise. Matt Boldy's leading the way in those 4 games. He's got 2 goals. He's got 3 points. Matt Zuccarello's got 3 points. Yakov Trenin and Kirill Kaprizov have 2 points apiece. And here are the players that have no points in the month of December so far. Jared Spurgeon, Marcus Johansson, Tyler Pitlick, Vladimir Tarasenko, Ryan Hartman, Jake Middleton, Joel Eriksson-Ek, Ben Jones, Brock Faber, Liam Ogren. And those players have all played all 4 of the games, with the exception of Danil Yurov. He's played 2, but he has a point in those 2 games. You've got it. And I cautioned against this when Marcus Johansson got off to a great start. You know, we said it was great. It was great to see him getting off to a good start. But based off of what we've seen over the last few years, doesn't feel like that's sustainable. And lo and behold, now it is just a 4-game stretch so far. But lo and behold, that has kind of dried up along with the others.
The secondary scoring way too streaky. It makes defending so easy against the Wild when you just have 2 scorers that you're scared about in Kaprizov and Boldy right now.
Marcus Johansson does not have a point since the Chicago game, so he is pointless in his last 5 games. The Wilds need to get healthy. Now, getting Danil Yurov back into the lineup removed Ben Jones. We're seeing Ryan Hartman getting some center time in on the 4th line just to try to help with faceoffs. You need to the second line wing spot again has kind of driven to the focal point. Like, you still have not found a reputable solution for that. Maybe when Rossi comes back, maybe we see Danil Yurov get a little wing time on the second line if you want to keep Eriksson-Ek as your second line center. Maybe we see that, and maybe Sturm and Hartman just flip places then. But you can't ride on that second line not being able to keep up for long. And it's got to be other guys than just Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov.
100%. You need a second scoring line, and if you don't, especially all the top teams have it, right? For whatever reason, the Wild can't figure that out. And you look at X offense; it's really down because they can't figure that out for a full line.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how a stretch of goalie play can just mask everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the goalie play becomes even average, because I thought Philip Gustafsson played well against the Flames. He didn't get any help. And Jesper had his first kind of clunker of the season, which is going to happen. But you can't have everything else fall apart if your goaltending is not playing at like an A+ level.
Right.
You have to be able to weather some of that. And once the Canucks tied the score at 1 apiece, there was no push. It was immediately just they
rolled over.
So we don't have the opportunity to make it 2-0 or 3-0 or 4-0 or 5-0. Oh, why can't we do that every night? That's not how it works. You've got to be able to get it. You've got to be able to respond. And John Hines said they played better, and in the first period they did, but that's not the whole game. They've played one good period in the last 2 games.
You need a full 60. You can't just go out there for 20 minutes or a couple shifts and think you're going to win the hockey game just because of that.
So here's my challenge for the Minnesota Wild is go out to Seattle and rip the tentacles off of the Kraken. I want to see people get annoyed, perturbed, angry. I want to see Gordon from Dodgeball. You got to get angry. You got to get mean. I want to see a little bit of that in this game because there should just be no level of acceptance with losing to, in a 4-game span, losing to the Buffalo Sabres, the Calgary Flames, and the Vancouver Canucks, all who are at the bottom of the standings in each of their leagues, who really have nothing to play for at this point. There should just be no excuse for that. And there is an easy way to erase that frustration is to take it out on your next opponent. And if they don't do that against Seattle, this is a problem again.
100%. Like I said, you just can't afford to just drop points, especially in the condensed type of schedule, and take advantage of these teams. Even if it's on the road, you need the 2 points. You can't even let Seattle get an overtime point, win in regulation.
Yeah. Win it outright,
right,
and send us back off the ledge. Programming note, there will not be a postcast for tonight's game. 9:00 is too late. We will, of course, have the live show for you at 8 p.m. Denny has the plate is completely full as far as the topics go. There's no shortage of things to discuss. The last couple of games especially. So you're going to want to hear what Denny has to say about where the Wild are at, what needs to change for them to get to where they want to go. Make sure to tune in at 8 p.m. tonight for yet another live edition of Locked On Wild. Make sure, as we mentioned, to check out the show notes for the Everyday or All Access program. Link is in the description, lockedonwild.supercast.com. A full tier of all access content coming at you here, just a way to enhance what we're bringing to you at Locked On Wild. So check it out, and there are plenty of answers to the questions that you may have about that. We've got you covered every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.